I want to read a little bit from Lee Thayer's latest book, Communication, A Radical Philosophy for Life's #1 Problem. I want to read from chapter 19, Communication Competencies. The premier competency is being uncertain and curious. Curiosity creates life and growth. Knowing is a way of dying, encounter by encounter. Know thyself begins by questioning what you know for certain. Your capacity for being communicated with in terms of your purpose is the mark of mastery over your life. This chapter has two primary aims. One, to explain what communication competencies are, and two, to suggest how to develop them. We are born pretty much bereft of communication competencies. Even those who birthed us have to make educated guesses about what our wailing might mean. We don't know, they guess. If they guess right, whatever it was that prompted us to interrupt their lives with our fussing and fuming, sometimes exasperatingly to them, gets ameliorated. Then it's moving on. All of which is to illustrate the fact that we start out with little in the way of human communicative competencies. What we need, we have to develop. And this need to make them better never ends. It lasts all of our lives, as much as we may try to avoid it by pretending a kind of get-by proficiency amongst our familiar places and people. As infants, we are forced to say what we want, or what is ailing us. We learn how to manipulate others, and then we learn how to manipulate ourselves. We learn how to think and what things mean to those around us. We learn how to avoid being taken advantage of, and how to take advantage of others. We learn how to influence and be influenced. We develop minimally adequate mental models of things, and then cling to those beliefs as long as we possibly can. We learn what to believe. We learn what to feel and how to express it. In short, we become human by learning how to communicate with ourselves and the others around us. To communicate with others, we have to colonize their minds, and they have to colonize ours. To the extent we don't mutually exist in one another's minds, we can't communicate. To the extent we don't see the world in similar ways, we will have communication problems. Some of this will be provided by a common language, which pictures the world in grossly similar ways. If we access the world in similar ways, and if we have in common ways of talking about the world, as would be the case in any culture or subculture, we can fall into communication with one another with ease. At one time, communication scholars toyed with the concepts of communication pleasure and communication pain. Communication pleasure came from not having to work at it. Communication pain derived from having to work at it. That is, to think consciously about how to interpret another, or what to say. Learning another language as an adult has this kind of pain associated with it. Being able to chew the fat with your cronies has that kind of pleasure associated with it. So we prefer to talk to people who understand us, so we can speak in cliches, or with the jargon we have become accustomed to. So we avoid saying what we mean. We don't want confrontations. That's because there will quickly be pain connected with the problem of how to react to one another when we have to think about it. The point here is that we prefer situations that do not demand much in the way of communication competencies. When our competencies are challenged, we feel the discomfort or the pain. We can escape this by avoiding circumstances that challenge our present competencies. We prefer those circumstances where we can operate more or less on autopilot, by talking or listening without having to think about it. That can occur only when others are in the same unthinking gear. Have a nice day is such a universal cliché that it has no particular meaning for either the person who says it or the person who hears it. It's a pain-free way of making contact with people, with without making contact with them. If they wanted to mean something special by what they said, they wouldn't be using such an overwrought cliché. If we stopped to consider what they meant by what they said, we would miss the point. They didn't mean anything by it beyond goodbye. People speak in clichés because they haven't developed and intend not to expend the effort of developing their communication competencies. They seek the lowest common denominator they can get by with. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just the way it is. But it helps to know communication competencies are not very high on most people's agendas. If they don't have to develop them, they won't. If they put into practice what they learned in school, they couldn't have the friends they do. If you want to improve your competencies as a communicator, you will be restricted to that small set of people who are doing the same thing. What they know and care about is that words and syntax and communication craftsmanship are such are the tools of thought. You can't have a superior mind unless you have superior communication competencies, and vice versa. But therein lies the rub. Most people don't want to be around superior minds. We prefer democracy, where everyone is or ought to be average. We avoid people who dress better than we do, and write them off as putting on airs. People who try to be superior by thinking better and thus speaking better than we do cannot be members of our group. We excommunicate them. We want or need intelligibility, but effortlessly. That's why we have friends who think and talk like we do. That's why we read books that are easy for us to read. That's why we consume television shows with familiar plots and themes and a laugh track, so we don't even have to guess what's funny. Our minds and our communication skills will rise or fall with the communication networks we live in. I'm going to stop there for now. Hope you found that enlightening. Watch it again, think about it. And I would like to probably later maybe make a response to this reading. I want to think about these words, and I want to take this in and read it several more times and figure out what Thayer is really trying to say. But thanks for watching.